Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening and welcome to your latest instalment of Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard here with you until 6:30pm. Hope as ever you've had a great week so far. So, coming up tonight, Premier League leaders Peel face a tricky challenge against informed Rushen United as part of the latest fixtures across Manx football this Saturday. We're getting to the business end of the season for some of the island's rugby teams taking part in UK competitions, with two sides facing vital fixtures tomorrow, whilst the Ravenscroft Manx Trophy also continues. And fresh from signing a new deal, we hear from a TT racer who's made a move ahead of returning to the Snæfell Mountain course later this year. That is all to come this evening. Starting things off tonight, we take a look at the football fixtures taking place across the men's divisions tomorrow, Saturday the 18th of February. No games scheduled for Sunday, in fact, so let's take a look solely at those fixtures taking place on Saturday. And we welcome, as ever, for the first time this evening, Tony Mepham. Tony, very good evening.
Good evening to you, Rob. Nights are getting lighter, so hopefully the warmer weather is coming and we can get some evening games started towards the end of March, April, hopefully.
You don't get that impression looking out the window here up at Broadcasting House, do you? It's absolutely pitch black out there, but hopefully longer nights to come.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at the fixtures on Saturday. All games kicking off at 2:30pm. We'll start from the Candlelight Men's Premier League. 6 games, and we have to start with Douglas High School Old Boys. They're going to be at home to Union Mills.
Yeah, Douglas High School Old Boys have been playing quite well recently, and watched them in the Cup in extra time and had a good battle with Peel, as well with Union Mills. Well, a great performance 7 days ago against Laxey, and you could see why. The forward line was good, it was in form, and they finished their chances, and that's what gave Paul Guyver's men those points. So even though it's at Blackberry Lane, I just think Union Mills, with that result last week, will have the bit between the teeth, and they'll take maximum points.
And then over at Glen Road, Laxey are at home. They're up against a Douglas Royal side. And Douglas Royal, well, I covered their game with St George's last weekend up at Ballafletcher. Played some good football at times, but just maybe lacked a little bit of potency in the final third. That seemed to be the difference between the two sides. How do you think they'll fare away at Laxey this weekend?
Yeah, and I'm surprised really with Douglas Royal, because if anything, their strength is up front. Dominic McCarry-Brennan's always a handful. You've got Jamie Agnew in there, and the others sort of filter through and supply to him. Lewis Roberts is another one from midfield or even defence, but they're under a little bit of pressure when you look at that league table, Rob, because they're in 10th place with 11 points, and Moran Onken just below them on 10, and then you've got Douglas High School Old Boys on 9, so they could do with maximum points somewhere amongst the next 2 or 3 games. And against Laxey, I don't know what happened last week. I spoke to Johnny Palmer after the game and I said, what went wrong? Because they've been playing so well. Okay, they were missing Glenn Walker, but just it looked a lacklustre performance, and he'll be hoping that he gets something more out of the team tomorrow. And I just think the way it's gone for them, Laxey should be narrow sort of favourites for this one, but I just think Douglas Royal might take it.
Very well, and then from Glen Roads to Glen Crutchery Road, we've got St George's, who've been in a rich vein of form the last couple of weeks, starting to turn things around, it seems, and they're going to be at home to St John's United.
Yeah, they're playing well, scoring plenty of goals as well, and it does help when you've got still one of the best goal scorers in front is Kieran McNulty. You've got Chris Bass just behind him or alongside him, and defensively Sean Quay's just come in, and Johnny Myers is playing well, so well done to them all. Joel Ibanez has been a great acquisition for them to have him back in there. But St John's, no Dean Lees is in the FC Isle of Man squad, so that's a big shame for them. And I just think St George will prove too strong for them, even though St John's put a battling performance in against league leaders Peel. But I just think St George at the moment, the squad that they've got, will take the points.
Very well, then we move out to the west and possibly one of the ties of the weekend, the league leaders Peel. It's not going to be an easy test for them, this one. They've already got that nice gap at the top of the Premier League. They'll be hoping to extend that, but it won't be very straightforward, you don't think, going on paper, because they're up against an informed Rushen United.
Well, they are in form, and when you look at the points difference between them, Rob, there's 19 points. Now, let's have a look at the Peel team. They've lost their talisman in Rhys Oates. He's out now for 6 to 8 weeks with a cartilage problem. I'm glad it's not his ligaments that he had the big operation on, so speedy recovery, Rhys. But he's been scoring the goals. He was the league's leading goal scorer, the club's leading goal scorer, obviously, and without him I just wonder where the goals are going to come from. If Paul Whitehead's fit, he's a big player to have, but as you rightly say, Rushen at the moment playing really well with some good young players who are coming in, and if Rushen can show the same sort of determination that I saw against them a couple of weeks ago, then I think Rushen can beat Peel in this fixture.
Very well. Then we move out to one of the sides caught in that really tight battle at the bottom of the table. Onken, they're going to be at home to Ramsey.
Yeah, it is, and I think Onken were hoping maybe to have Tom Creer, but Tom's been included also in FC Alaman's team. So Ramsey have been playing well. Dylan Pickles has been scoring plenty of goals, and I just think that Ramsey will be too strong. I know it's at the stadium, pitch will be fine because the weather's been good, but I just don't see Onken winning here, and just heaps a little bit more pressure on them.
Very well, and the final tie in the Canada Life Men's Premier League this weekend is another one of those teams struggling towards the bottom around. They're going to be at home to Ayr United. Yeah, it is, and Ayr United have dropped down a little bit. They're in 7th place now, but Nick Hurt's team still capable of beating any of the teams in the league, as we've seen this season, that they can challenge the top teams. And I just think Moran, tighter pitch, that will help them. But I think Ayr United still got a good team out there. Johnny Shields has been excellent. And when you look at Declan Cummins, I noticed Aidan Cummins was included in the squad recently. With them sort of players around, I just think Ayr will prove too strong for Moran. Very well, that's the Canada Life Men's Premier League. We'll move into DPS Limited Division 2. We had 4 games scheduled. That is now down to 3, though, we understand, Tony. Yeah, it is. Douglas Athletic can't field a team tomorrow against St Mary's, so St Mary's will be awarded the 3 points. But the other 3 games, Rob, I can confirm are still on. Excellent. Well, let's start with down south. Castletown still trying to push toward those top places, trying to catch Michael United in second, who don't have a game, crucially, this weekend. Castletown, they'll be hosting Douglas and District. There's a right little battle going on at the top of DPS Division 2, and, well done to everyone there. And when you look at it, St Mary's are sitting pretty at the top, but they've played 3 games more than the second place team. And I think certainly Castletown against D&D, looking at the league tables, Castletown, the amount of goals that they're scoring at the moment, Nathan Cardy's been banging them in, and also Edward De Silva. So I just think that Castletown will be too strong for Douglas and District, but take note of that result that they had in the FA Cup, so they can turn it on when they want to. Very well, and then also down in the south, Colby, they'll be hosting Gyms. Yeah, and I watched Gyms recently, and they're all right. They battle hard. They've got players playing out of position just to, try and put some pressure on the team that they're playing against. But I think with Colby, Carl Hickey's come back into the squad. He's fit again, so that's good. New manager in there, and it always works well when someone at the helm takes over. So I just think Colby will prove too strong for Gyms tomorrow afternoon. Very well, then rounding off DPS Limited Division 2, Foxdale, and they'll be taking on Ramsey Youth Centre. Yeah, right next to each other in the league, but Ramsey Youth Centre have played 13 games, Foxdale have played 9, 5 points difference between the two. Again, Foxdale are still a battling team, same as Ramsey Youth Centre, they don't want to lose. So up at Billy Goat, the pitch is good, spoke to Alan Lemaire midweek, it's all in good nick, it'll make for a good game of football, but I'm going to go for the away side, Ramsey Youth Centre to take the points. Very well, then let's take a quick look through the combination leagues. We'll start off with Canada Life Combination 1, 5 games there this weekend. Union Mills against Douglas High School Old Boys. I'm going to go for Union Mills just to sneak that one. Douglas Royal against Laxey. Laxey again got some good young players coming through. I think those young players will prove technically good, and Laxey to win. Rushen against Peel. It's 2 top teams, isn't it? So what a game this is going to be. You have to go for Rushen, still unbeaten so far this season. Ramsey against Onken, Ramsey to win. And Ayr United against Moran. I'm going to go for Ayr to win. And last but certainly not least, rounding off Saturday, we have 5 games in DPS Limited Combination 2. We certainly do. And Douglas and District against Castletown. Going to go for Castletown to win. Gyms against Colby. I'll go for Colby just to take the victory. And in the other 3 remaining games Michael against Pulrose. We'll go for Pulrose just to take that. And Malou against Braddon. The league tables, tell a story, and Malua second, so I just think they're going to win this one. And Ramsey Youth Centre against Foxdale, I'll go for Ramsey Youth Centre to win. Well, those are your Manx football fixtures for Saturday, and just a reminder, no games penned in for Sunday this week. Well, we've got 2 minutes or so, Tony. We'll just take a quick look at FC Isle of Man. A big win for them, a 4-1 home win against Earlham last Saturday, which brought to an end a 6-game losing streak. They'll be looking to build momentum and keep taking themselves away from that relegation zone in the NWCFL Premier Division tomorrow when they take on bottom of the table Ashton Athletic. There are 13 points between the two sides, and FC Isle of Man are now 7 points clear of the relegation zone going into this weekend. But Ashton Athletic have picked up some much better results in recent weeks, and last weekend a 2-0 win away at AFC Liverpool. You cannot take any positions in this table for granted. Paul Jones has said it. Tony, do you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. And let's look back at last week's performance. It was brilliant. They battled really hard. And a shame about Furu Davies at the end, really, because, they're a bit light on forwards at the moment. I know Sean Doyle's in the squad tomorrow. But Furu's fit and you want to keep him in that squad and in that momentum. But, it was good defensively. I know Steve Whitley got man of the match and okay, but I thought Alex Maitland at the back was superb. And just all round, we played some really good football. But if you're going to lose against Ashton, then you just put yourself under so much pressure. And when you look at, they've got Winsford coming up, and then all the big guns are coming in towards the end, aren't they? So I think 3 points tomorrow, that'll put them in a really good place. Then hopefully a win against Winsford, and then they can relax a little bit more. And with players coming back from injury, it'll make them a lot stronger, and hopefully it'll make them stay in that league. They don't want to go down. I know I've been asked, I think by yourself and Dave Moore, do you think relegation will help them to regroup? No. They want to stay where they are. Last season was amazing. Let's see if we can stay in now and then regroup in this league for next season.
Just finally, one quick question. It's, I suppose, the $1 million question that I put to Paul Jones at the end of the game against Earlham and also this week. How do they keep up this momentum? They obviously found themselves in this vicious cycle of losing recently, got that really good result at home on Saturday. So how do they get the opposite? How do they get into that, I suppose, winning mentality? It's not straightforward, is it?
No, it isn't. And I think a lot of it, Rob, you've played sport, is confidence because the players are there. The players have got the ability, but it's just, getting it to all come together on match day. And we've watched the last 4 or 5 home games and they've been unlucky in some of them. But it's just having the players really challenging, getting stuck in. And, second half last week, I thought they sort of came out better and they looked really good. And, with people like Sean Doyle coming back in and other people recovering from injury, Frank Jones won, then I think it's putting them in a good place and I think they can do it.
Very well, Tony, thanks very much. We'll be catching up with you on Saturday Live with Paul Moran and also on Saturday Sport Classified tomorrow. Thank you very much. And FC Isle of Man taking on Ashton Athletic tomorrow at Brocksteeds Park, a 2 p.m. kickoff there. We'll hope to get some reaction from that game as and when it happens. OK, turning now to rugby, and we're really getting to the sharp end of the season for both Douglas and Vagabonds in the Regional 2 North West and Counties 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire Leagues, respectively. Douglas have a chance to get themselves even further away from the foot of their division, but it could be a do-or-die situation for Vagabonds as their challenging campaign this season continues. Taking a look again at what's in store for them, as well as the Manx Trophy competition locally this Saturday, is Dave Christian.
We start with Douglas away at Broughton Park. Douglas 9th in Regional 2 North West, Broughton Park 10th. Douglas has got a 7-point buffer, and that's a good thing. But Broughton Park have got a couple of games in hand, which isn't necessarily a good thing. We're at the business end of the season too. Douglas only got 3 fixtures left, or is it 4 fixtures left? They really could do with some points. Broughton Park below them in the table. They had a convincing win at Portachee earlier in the season. And I think away from home, Douglas will be looking to go well. They'll certainly be targeting this game. I think they've got a home game against Wilmslow yet to come. And Wilmslow at the foot of the table too. So I think 2 wins from those, Douglas should be safe from relegation. Relegation is by no means a certainty either in these leagues. It all depends on what happens above and underneath. The RFU trying to keep things as regional as possible, so there's not too much travelling distances. This is just a little bit of a relegation battle they're in, and not so much of a battle as well. They're in a reasonably comfortable position. They've had 2 fantastic home performances, both ended in defeats, but they give shocks to teams at the top end of the table. They ran Anselmians very close in January, and earlier this month they've ran Bowden very close as well. Both of those games, there was only a handful of points in it going into the final 5 minutes, and the opposition have just got a couple of breakaways that have flattered them a little bit. So Douglas just starting to perform well. They've got a couple of new players in the squad as well. Percy Hampton's had a couple of run-outs now. He's transferred from Southern Nomads. And Toby Poole-Wilson there, a couple of bench places for him following his transfer over from Western Vikings. This is all going to be down to what sort of a team Douglas can travel with. If they can get their A team away, they're going to come back with the points. If they don't, they're going to give Broughton Park 4 or 5 points. And with Broughton Park having a couple of games in hand, there's an opportunity there that Douglas could just slip into that relegation zone. So I think there'll be all hands to the pump this weekend, and Douglas should be capable of bringing back some points. It's a little bit of a different position for Vagabonds in Counties 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire. They're bottom of the table. They also have a 7-point buffer, but it's not the right way. They've got a little bit of a gap between them and the team immediately above them, which is Port Sunlight, and they visit Port Sunlight this weekend. It's going to be difficult for Vagabonds over there. Port Sunlight have won 3, Vaggers have won 1, statistically at least, but that was only a win because Old Bedians failed to turn up on the Isle of Man for their game earlier this season, which meant Vaggers were awarded 5 points. Without that, they'd probably be down and dead and buried already. If they fail to win this one, I think we can say that they're definitely going to finish in the bottom of the table. Whether or not that means relegation is a slightly debatable question. Just having a look at the regulations this week, and well, they're very, very clear, but equally opaque. It depends, because Vagabonds are at level 8 in the rugby's tree, level 9 being the bottom level. If there are no clubs at level 9 next season, because nobody enters the competitions, then Vagabonds will effectively have no league to play in, and they'll automatically drop into level 8. So there's the chance that they won't necessarily be relegated to level 9, but equally we don't know. Maybe new clubs will come into the competition, some will drop out, and until the end of the season we don't really know. The Vanguards have flickered with a couple of performances. Just before Christmas we were there with covering for Saturday Live. We seen them play Duckenfield, almost got there, and Duckenfield just snatched it at the last with a conversion kick to win the match. We also seen them last week against Garstang. Garstang won that game 22 points to 3, but Vagabonds were in it for much of it. And the scoreline not that big. Vaggers just lacking a little bit of penetration going forward. They've got a couple of new players up there as well. Daniel Bonwick moved over from Ramsey. He's not really had a chance. He's only played twice, I think, so far. He's not had a chance to influence the game or the way the teams play yet, particularly when he's playing in the number 10 jersey and being at the heart of everything they're doing. They'll want him to be travelling and be on tip-top form. Mark Oldfield been playing well in the back row for them this season, and I've been impressed with Cal Donnell in the centre. But other than that, the team is flattering to deceive. John Riley's got a bit of pace on the wing. Cam Finley can slot in just about anywhere in the back line, but they're just not scoring points. I think it's the big problem, and fingers crossed that they're able to do it. If they can pick off Port Sunlight, they've got another winnable fixture. It's at home against Bury. It's their very last game of the season. They could get them off the bottom, but I suspect that's not going to happen. In between, they've got to play league leaders Hoylake, so I'm not expecting big things from Vagabonds tomorrow, but wish them all the best in any case. Domestically, 2 games in the Ravenscroft Manx Trophy. Paulson Park, Castletown. Castletown will take on Western Vikings and Ramsey's Reds. And at Ballakilya Park, Port Erin, Southern Nomads Greens will take on Ramsey's Blues and the Eastern Barbarians. As things stand, both games are due to kick off at 2:15.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight in motorsport, and TT racer Rob Hodson has confirmed he'll ride in the colours of SMT Racing at the TT in 2023. He's agreed a season-long deal with Robin Croft's outfit, and speaking about the move, he caught up with Dave Moore.
We've kept in touch with Robin for the last few years since we was involved with him in 2018, so yeah, went up for a chat with him, and one thing led to another. We discussed different options for what he was wanting to do. Obviously last year he was with John McGuinness, so he wanted to do a bit more in more classes, and we had a chat, and this is where we ended up. So it's fantastic to be back involved with SMT Racing and have them back on the island, in full format. Was that the only deal on the table? There was a couple of messages came through pretty much after we were sorted with that. Of course, we was with Daffabet Racing last year, so that was going to be a continuous thing. And I weighed up my different options with themselves and what was best to do for myself, and I decided this direction was something I wanted to pursue. So yeah, really looking forward to getting going now. So what are you going to be riding? We've got a 2023 Honda CBR 1000 off Fireblade from Robin at SMT, and we've got a Yamaha R6 Supersport bike from Sean Dawson at VRS Recovery, and a Kawasaki Z650 from KH Commercials. So we've got a full stable of bikes, and they're all of a proper decent spec, So I'm looking forward to getting out on them all, to be honest. The Fireblade Superbike or a Superstock? So it's the Fireblade's a super stock, which will run in Superbike, Senior, and super stock classes. So it'll have a third job on its hands, but the keeping with that just the one bike, hopefully pay off. We can get a good feeling for it, and without sort of having too many bikes in the stable, it can start confusing things with the switching between Superbike and super stock. So just the 1000cc will be I'm more than happy with that.
Every year in your career, it is a progression. Are you satisfied with the way things are going?
Yeah. Last year at the TT especially, we made big progress with the, especially the Super Twin and Super Sport. Lap times increased quite a bit. So yeah, hopefully with this new SMT Fireblade, we can make the same progress this year, and we can really start pushing towards the top 10.
Your pre-TT preparations, what do they involve?
Next week we go to Calafat in Spain for a 3-day shakedown on the Fireblade, and then after that we'll be back home for a couple of smaller tests and meetings just before the TT. The plan was to go to the Northwest 200 as a newcomer this year with all 3 bikes, but that's looking very questionable at the moment. So that's something that's may happen in the background. But yeah, we'll be doing as much as we can on the build up to the 2023 TT.
Manx Radio Sport.
That's all we have time for on Friday Sport Preview this week. Many thanks to my guests this week, Tony Mepham, Dave Christian and Rob Hodson. Have yourself a wonderful Friday, whatever you're doing, and have a wonderful weekend as well. Chris Kinley is here with you next. And from me, until next time, it's bye for now.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.